Right. So picture this. You're Rachel Reeves, sat in number 11 Downing Street, probably sipping some overpriced artisan coffee, thinking you've got it all sorted. Then suddenly, Camilla Tominey appears on your television screen like some sort of political avenging angel, absolutely eviscerating your entire career on live telly whilst one of your own cabinet colleagues tries desperately to defend you. It's like watching someone try to put out a house fire with a water pistol. Absolutely glorious chaos. And honestly, it might just be the most entertaining political car crash we've witnessed since the last political car crash about 3 weeks ago, because let's face it, that's just how British politics rolls these days. Quick favor, if you're enjoying this absolute theater, smash that subscribe button. Over 94% of you haven't yet. It's completely free, takes literally 1 second, and it genuinely means a world to us here at British Mirror. Cheers if you did. Right, back to the magnificent disaster unfolding at Westminster. So here's what happened. Pat McFadden, the pension secretary and apparently the person Labour sends out when they need someone to defend the indefensible, rocks up to Camilla Tominey's Sunday morning show on GB News. Now, for context, going on Camilla's show when you're a struggling government minister is roughly equivalent to a gazelle voluntarily walking into a lion's den wearing a sign that says, "Eat me, I'm delicious." Bold strategy. Let's see how it plays out. McFadden starts banging on about how Rachel Reeves is doing brilliantly, claiming she's getting more investment into the country and helping people with the cost of living. Right, because nothing says helping with the cost of living quite like whacking £26 billion worth of tax increases on people, does it? It's like setting someone's house on fire and then charging them for the privilege of watching it burn. Absolutely marvelous logic there. Pat, but then Camilla, bless her, decides she's not having any of this nonsense. She comes in absolutely swinging with what might be the most devastating opening salvo I've heard in political broadcasting this year. Let me set the scene for you properly here, because this is genuinely magnificent. She looks at McFadden, probably with that expression that says, "I've done my homework and you're about to have a very bad time," and says, and I quote, "Let's have a quick chat about the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves." So we now know that she lied on her CV. There's claims that she lied in the budget. She wasn't ever the under-14 chess champion. She actually came 24th out of 36. So why is she still in post when she's got this quite difficult relationship, seemingly Pat McFadden, with the truth? Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate the sheer savagery of that question? Because that's not just a question. That's a character assassination wrapped in politeness and delivered with the precision of a surgical strike. It's a journalistic equivalent of bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. And honestly, it's absolutely brilliant because every single point she makes is verifiable, documented fact. Reeves did embellish her CV. She did claim to be a chess champion when she actually finished 24th. These aren't conspiracy theories cooked up in some basement somewhere. These are facts that anyone with Google in 5 minutes can verify. But here's where it gets properly entertaining, right? Because McFadden, faced with this absolutely devastating litany of his boss's documented dishonesty, decides his best strategy is to simply pretend none of it matters. His response? She's in post because she's an excellent chancellor. That's it. That's the whole defense. No addressing the lies. No explaining the inconsistencies. Just a flat, unwavering assertion that she's excellent. It's like someone pointing out that your car is on fire and you responding with yes, but it's got excellent fuel economy. Technically true perhaps, but spectacularly missing the point. And Camilla's reaction? Absolutely priceless. Just 2 words. Is she? Delivered with a kind of incredulity that suggests she's genuinely questioning whether they are living in the same reality. Because here's the thing, calling Rachel Reeves an excellent chancellor when she's polling as literally the worst chancellor in recorded history is like calling the Titanic an excellent swimming pool. The facts rather spectacularly disagree with your assessment, mate. Speaking of those facts, let's talk numbers for a moment because they are properly damning. An Ipsos poll last month revealed that 71% of voters are dissatisfied with Reeves' performance. 71%. That's not just bad. That's catastrophically, historically. This will be in political science textbooks as an example of how not to do it bad. For context, even quasi-Quarting, whose entire chancellorship lasted about as long as a lettuce and nearly crashed the British economy, didn't poll this badly. Let that sink in. Rachel Reeves has managed to be less popular than the man who caused pension funds to nearly collapse. That takes a special kind of talent. But McFadden, undeterred by pesky things like facts and public opinion, plows ahead with his defense. He claims Reeves has put the country's finances on a stable footing. At which point Camilla interjects again with another beautifully skeptical has she. It's like watching someone repeatedly walk into a wall whilst insisting they're making excellent progress. The denial is so strong you could bottle it and sell it as an industrial-strength cleaning product. Now here's where the budget comes into play. And oh boy, is this where things get properly spicy. Because ahead of the budget, both Reeves and Keir Starmer stood up repeatedly and promised, hand on heart, cross my heart and hope to die, that they absolutely would not raise taxes on working people. They said it so many times it became almost boring. It was their mantra, their catchphrase, their one big promise. We won't tax working people. They might as well have had it tattooed on their foreheads. Then the budget drops, and what happens? £26 billion worth of tax increases. £26 billion. That's not a rounding error. That's not an unfortunate miscalculation. That's not even in the same postcode as not raising taxes on working people. That's taking their promise, setting it on fire, dancing on the ashes, and then billing the taxpayer for the privilege of watching. And when challenged on this rather spectacular bit of political gymnastics, the response from Labour has essentially been, well, technically, if you squint really hard and ignore how words work, we're not taxing working people because we're taxing employers. Right. Because obviously when you massively increase employer national insurance contributions, businesses just absorb that cost out of the goodness of their hearts. They definitely don't pass it on to employees through reduced wages, fewer jobs, or higher prices. That would be ridiculous. It's like claiming you're not punching someone in the face because technically you're punching them in the nose. The distinction is somewhat academic when you're still getting smacked. Camilla, naturally, isn't buying any of this creative accounting. She comes back with an absolute zinger. I hope you're not going to say to me, Pat McFadden, with all of your wealth of political experience, that you're not taxing working people because you clearly are. And it's largely to go towards paying people who aren't working benefits, isn't it? Now, that's a properly provocative question, and McFadden immediately denies it. He launches into this whole spiel about how taxation goes towards the NHS, transport, housing, defense spending, and all these essential services, which, fair enough, is technically true. Taxation does fund public services. That's literally how government works. But here's the problem. When you specifically promise not to do something, and then you immediately do exactly that thing, people tend to get a bit miffed about it regardless of where the money's going. It's a political equivalent of promising your partner you won't eat their chocolate, eating their chocolate, and then defending yourself by saying yes, but I needed the energy to do the washing up. Technically the washing up got done, but you're still sleeping on the couch, mate. And then Camilla delivers what might be the knockout punch of the entire interview. She asks, quite reasonably, if the Chancellor and the Prime Minister are doing such a great job, why are they now historically unpopular as far as the electorate's concerned? The Prime Minister's approval rating is tanking. Rachel Reeves is the least popular Chancellor in history, and I'm including quasi-courting in that. It's a devastating question because it exposes a fundamental disconnect between what the government thinks it's achieving and what the public actually experiences. McFadden and his colleague can stand up all day long and insist everything's brilliant, but when 7 out of 10 people think you're doing a terrible job, there might just be a problem with your performance rather than everyone else's perception. McFadden's response? Governments are elected to make decisions. They are not always popular at the time. The time to judge a government is when the next election comes, which is essentially political speak for, yes, everyone hates us, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing anyway and hope you forget about it by the time you vote again. It's a just trust us, we know better defense, which historically has worked out brilliantly for governments. Just ask literally any government that's tried it and then been absolutely demolished at the polls. The sheer audacity of it all is quite breathtaking, really. Here you have a chancellor who has demonstrably lied on her CV, who polls as the worst chancellor in living memory, who broke her central campaign promise within months of taking office, and who has presided over tax increases that have made her historically unpopular. And the government's response to all of this? She's excellent, actually. It's like the Black Knight in Monty Python, insisting it's just a flesh wound whilst his arms and legs fall off. The commitment to the bit is admirable, even if the bit itself is completely mental. What makes this whole situation even more farcical is the context surrounding these CV embellishments. Now, lying about being a chess champion might seem relatively minor in the grand scheme of political scandals. It's not like she claimed to have won a Nobel Prize or single-handedly defeated Napoleon. But here's why it matters. If someone is willing to lie about something so easily verifiable and ultimately pointless, what else might they be willing to bend the truth about? It's the principle of the thing. When you're the Chancellor of the Exchequer, responsible for managing hundreds of billions of pounds of public money, people rather expect you to have a functional relationship with truth and accuracy. Call me old-fashioned. And this isn't happening in isolation either. This comes after months of labor struggling with various controversies, U-turns, and broken promises. The winter fuel payment cuts. The continued questions about donations and freebies. The general sense that they promise one thing in opposition and are delivering something completely different in government. It all adds up to a narrative that Labour themselves would struggle to defend, which is probably why McFadden resorted to simply insisting everything's fine whilst the building metaphorically burns around him.